Hey, Andrew, happy Memorial Day.
Hey, Kathy, happy Memorial Day to you.
Hey, I got inspired by your hat, so I decided I was going to wear one. Mine,
Yeah.
by the way, says, I love dogs. It's humans that annoy me.
I love it.
You're actually one of the few humans who do not annoy me. And one of the reasons for that is that, I have a passion for fire starters, and you have a passion for crossing lines. And I know
Yeah.
today you wanted to talk about leaping, and I
hmm
love that word. I'm old, so I don't leap, I toddle. But I would like to hear what you mean by leaping.
Yeah. So leaping, when I think of leaping, what I picture, I don't know if you've seen the Indiana Jones movies, but there's this scene where Harrison Ford, I forget which one it is, but maybe it's like the Temple of Doom, or I'm not sure. But I'm going to get obliterated for not knowing this later by
You
the
are.
fans. But it's been a while. It's been a while. But anyways, he's like crossing this chasm, and there are like invisible steps that he just has to trust are there. And I sort of feel like that's what's going on for me. The word leaping, I really think of a leap of faith. I really have a hard time with that. I'm not a faithful type of person. I'm very logical, and like I need to see every step. So when I get stuck, I feel like it's because I'm not willing to take those blind leaps and not know 100% that I'm going to land it or where I'm going to land it. Do you feel the same way ever?
I do. I love the Indiana Jones analogy because I think he was often leaping not necessarily to get to a destination, but because there were like snakes underneath him or
Yeah.
something like that. So I tend to be better at leaping when there's snakes about to get me. I'm
Yeah.
more apt to do a blind leap of faith. And I think part of that has to do with spontaneity. I'm not in my brain. I'm not thinking about all the reasons I shouldn't leap.
Mm.
I mean, you're a pretty heady guy. So what stops you from leaping?
Yeah. So one of the things that I really want to think about with this is like what is your pit as a person? That's the fear. That's the thing that stops you. And I think the pit for me is just not being able to know what's on the other side.
But do you ever know what's on the other side?
I think when you're in maintenance mode. I think most of our lives are spent just doing things that we think we're changing, we think we're leaping, but really we're just doing the same exact things over and over again. Like if you look at your daily routine, like we talked about last episode, you're doing lots of you might be doing creative things, you might be talking to people on calls, but how many of those things really change your life? Like every
Uh,
day, how many things really change your life?
Not a lot of things changed my life, so I think that often I am in maintenance mode.
Yeah.
For me, maintenance mode is good because I'm getting things done.
Yeah.
When I think about leaping, when I ask the question about you don't know what's on the other side, I don't think there's a better example than right now. I mean, 1 minute we were all bopping around, right? And then all of a sudden, COVID. And then all of a sudden, we now have decided, by the way, to take a different leap and say, COVID's not here, bopping around again. People
Yeah.
are having picnics all over the place today, right? And that, so I think people want to get back to maintenance mode,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
let me phrase this in a different way. It's not just not knowing where you're going to end up or if you're going to land. It's thinking about what the right leap is to maximize your time, money, and energy. Because I think the fear, like for entrepreneurs and creative people, is that I'm going to put energy or time into this and it's going to fail, and then I'm going to be like behind, you know or the thing that I'm doing is not the right thing to be doing, and it's going to take me in a completely wrong direction. Or maybe like the I'm when I fail at this thing, like I'm going to feel so awful that it's going to take me out of maintenance mode and I'm going to go into downward spiral mode.
So how do you know when the right time and place is to leave?
I've been thinking about it. The one thing that I'm really thinking about leaping toward right now is getting other guests on the podcast. And this has been a struggle for me because it's like the hat that you're wearing right now. Like, I don't like most humans, and I have a harder time than normal talking about the weather and engaging people that I don't know really deeply. So I have one person in particular, but like actually a long list of people that I want to contact, but I have not made the leap. And I've been thinking about making the leap for like a year. So I think the thing for me with leaping is like, what am I most afraid of? I think I've heard Seth Godin say this, but it's like your fear should be your compass when you're deciding what to do. Because if you're really afraid of something, it means that it's going to completely change your life. So you have to think, why am I afraid of this? And if I'm afraid of this, what reward am I going to get on the other side when I leap? Do you have anything like that right now?
Yeah, I do. I have, for example, doing this podcast with you. It's like, okay, is my hair going to look good?
Yeah.
The dog's going to bark. I know the dog's going to bark. I have I can't do a podcast because my background's not good enough, right?
Yeah.
And I got all these kind of things that don't mean anything. So today I was in a conversation with someone, and I just did a very cool webinar on leading a book, on book writing, and the feedback on it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
What they said was, hey, people just like you, Kathy.
Yeah.
So I think my biggest fear is that someone's not going to like me.
Okay. Oh, well, let me just stop you right there, because I don't think there's anyone like on the planet that wouldn't like you. You know, like you just have like this bubbly, like fun energy. I don't see how anyone could not like you.
Let's go back to junior high school. Okay, let's go back.
Go way back.
Everybody, I think, has the fear. I mean, if you put me in a cocktail party situation,
Yeah.
even though I'm bubbly, the only thing I'm thinking about is when I can leave.
Yeah.
I don't know how to interrupt conversations. I know I'm going to say something stupid. I have lists of fears, and
what's the biggest fear?
That they're not going to like me, that they're going to reject me.
What's the number one thing you think is going to cause people not to like you?
Oh no, there's nothing rational about it.
No, I'm not talking about rational, but what's the main emotional fear behind it? Like, what one thing do you think, I'm going to do this and that's going to cause people not to like me?
Yeah, it's not.
You said interruption. That's interesting.
I don't think it's is A to B. I'm going to do this, and this is not going to like it. It is this overall fear of rejection. Your calls that you're going to make. I mean, by the way, people like you too. Okay, you're real likable too. And I would suspect that most times in your life, people did not say no to you. So your idea is, I'm going to call up somebody to ask me in my podcast, and they're going to say, they have two answers, three: yes, no, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? You're not scared of the yes. You're not scared of the maybe. Why are you scared of the no?
I think, well, the people that I'm thinking about contacting, it's not like it's Seth Godin or something, but they're sort of like in a little, like a higher echelon, you know, than me. And I'm like, so I think one of the things that scares me is that I don't have a ton of relationships that mean something to me. So I'm like, oh God, if I ask this person to do this thing and then they say no, is that going to ruin these small number of relationships that I have? You know, that's a big fear for me. Like, I don't know enough people. It's sort of the scarcity mindset. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I actually don't see that at all, and I don't feel that at all. I think, the older I get, while that thing is there, the more audacious I get a little bit, because in order to leap, you have to have, I think, a couple things. One is you call it faith. I might think of it as not giving a shit.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the truth about Indiana Jones is he was an adventurer.
Yeah.
Everything he did could have killed him, right?
Yeah.
And he just went on adventures. I feel clock ticking away very fast.
Yeah.
For me, adventure and doing new things is what
It's the,
stimulates.
the exhilaration. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's actually, now that I'm thinking about, not the snakes of the fear, it's more, I like being exhilarated. So I'm going
Yeah.
to do risks. So I'm going to leap. So the time for me to take a risk is when I'm feeling bored, or when I'm feeling stuck, or when
Mm.
I'm in that place that you called maintenance mode.
Yeah.
I can't stand that place.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to move on there. Now, what I also do want is, I want some data that it's going to be successful.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm doing this podcast with you because you know what you're doing. Okay.
Well, that's
Well,
debatable.
you're pretending you know what you're doing.
I think in this space of my life, I just don't care. You know what I mean? Like I've mastered the not caring in this part of my life. I think the social not caring has not developed quite as far from it yet.
So to some extent, leaping is about not caring.
Yeah.
You
I think
know,
it's letting go. That's kind of a not giving a shit. That is like letting go is like the PC version of not giving
yeah.
a shit. You know, you have to let go of your attachment to the GPS, you know, and just like, it's like, I sent you some lyrics from King Krule that were inspiring me. And it's like, I don't have the exact lyrics in front of me, but it was something like,
I
like,
do.
oh, you do? Okay. So maybe you can read them.
Take a dip
Yeah.
for your love. Take your time. Take a ticket. Take the train to the end of the line. See where you can go. Expend it. It's plastic. No, do or die. Better flip it. Think about it. You'll do just fine. Well, these things will come and go.
I love it.
Oh,
I love that you're reading King Krule lyrics because you put this sort of like poetry spin on it, you know? So it's fun to get to hear people do things in different contexts. But yeah, it's like not caring about money or, you know, direction or tracks or anything like that, just like letting go of that. Something that kind of stops me is sort of like when you feel that attachment come back in and then you shut down, you know, like you contract emotionally. And I think that might be the root of the fear, really, is I'm afraid that's going to happen. You know, like I'm going to get in this adventurous spirit and then I'm going to get into the middle of the moment and then I'm just going to like shut down and turn into a robot and not be fun or adventurous anymore. Do you ever feel like that?
no, I don't. But it's interesting to me because it's not dissimilar to our conversation last time when you were talking about being stuck.
Yeah.
And it's this belief that creativity will leave you,
Yeah.
that opportunity will leave you.
Mm.
So, you know, when you came up with F the line, the question always is, what is the line?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's really what you're asking. What prevents you to leaping? What is the line? And there is a need for some introspection from everybody to decide what it is. And I sort of feel that maybe our first answer and our second answer and maybe even our third answer are never right.
Yeah.
You know, that you have to keep on really pushing it, because that's a different answer than you had, you know, 12 seconds ago, 12 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So you had another interesting question in here that is it, which I think is, you know, does the time or the place matter, or is it just something powerful about leaping blindly? I love
Yeah.
that question. What did you mean by that?
I think sometimes what stops us from leaping is that we create complexity out of simplicity. We make the situation and the conditions that we need to leap so complicated that they could never actually happen. And I think when you take the opposite view, leaping just becomes like you take all the pieces of your life and then you kind of just like shake them up and then you throw them out and it's like dice and you get something new to work with, you know. And I think so many times we're working with the same old materials over and over again. And so it's not about like knowing what you're trying to build exactly. It's about continually shaking yourself up and separating the oil and vinegar of your life, or the oil and water. What's the
Oil
science
and
there?
water. Yeah.
Oil and water. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just striking out today. I'm striking out on Indiana Jones. I'm striking out on basic science.
Well, what I really like is you switching the metaphor from Indiana Jones to this shaking thing.
Yeah.
Because at Indiana Jones, there was a direction, right? I mean, there was a path. It may have been invisible, but there was a path, and that was a leap of faith that the path would be here. When
Yeah.
you're using the analogy of a rolling a dice or separate oil and water, it's random. It may take you many different places. And then I think the next step is, what do you need to then follow that path? What then is the leap of faith to go in that direction, which
Yeah.
doesn't think it's going to happen today. But I think that is an interesting thing to explore in the future. What I am going to ask you, because you loved this, what are your 3 takeaways?
So I think last week we talked about language, and I really like what you've just said about switching the metaphor, because you can start out with these metaphors or words that trap you into a lane of thinking where you can only go down one path, and that path may not lead to where you want it to. So you have to really shake yourself up and say, how can I think about this completely differently? That's one. I think it's also important to think about your fear as a compass. What are you most afraid of? Because that's going to tell you not only what direction you need to go, which direction you need to leap, but it's going to make your leap simple enough that you can actually make it. And do you have one? Do you have any takeaways from this for a last one?
I guess my takeaway, my last one, is that it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's sort of hard work trying to come up with this stuff, and that, if you come up with a real quick answer, it's probably not the right answer.
Yeah.
And that just because of watching where this conversation went, and my own mind is spinning, going, what am I really fearful of? What am I scareful?
It's hard because your brain hides fear from you sometimes. We tend to run away from it. So when you get into that moment of fear, don't run away from it, run towards it or explore it. Think about it. Like, why am I afraid? What can I learn from this? And what is in the opposite direction of, or what is through fear? If I run through fear, where will I be?
Love it.
Yeah.
So how do people find out more about this from you?
Well, you can find the podcast and my comics at flines.com, also at flines on Instagram and Twitter, and on YouTube as well. And what about you, Kathy? Where can people find you?
I'm not quite sure yet, but I think where they can do is they can go to gofirestarter.com. They can go on social media, either under my name or Kathy Firestarter. And then I'm going to follow whatever else Andrew says of posting these wherever, because, he is the podcast guy. So thank you very much.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.